What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, I'm here with another installment of Ulysses. Ulysses. Let's get it. Favorite reader, that's who you are. Traveling near, traveling far. Through every chapter, you're the star. Favorite reader, that's who you are. Okay, so let's not waste no time. The first thing I did, I looked up how to say the title of this book. Come to find out, there's a few options that I have. Okay, so y'all stick with me. So typically in America, it's pronounced Ulysses. Typically in the UK, it's pronounced Ulysses. And in Dublin, it's pronounced Ulysses. Eula. So American Ulysses, the UK Ulysses, Dublin Ulysses instead of Ulysses. And then in Latin, which I'm pretty sure is the way that James Joyce pronounced it, it is Ulysses. Ulysses. So the Y is not pronunciated. So that's it. What it came down to is say it however it sounds natural to you. And I'm not sure which way it sounds natural to me. I've been like playing around with how I naturally say it. And I keep going back and forth between Ulysses and Ulysses. I'm thinking I like Ulysses. But I don't know. We're going to see. By the time I finish this book, I will have chosen. But I know now that I got options. Okay, so let's jump into it. As you saw by the title, we're on episode 7 through 9. This book first starts off at dawn. Now we're midday. Okay, so I told y'all about Mr. Bloom. The funeral that he was at is over. He's going to work, which is interesting because he is a hard worker, which I think I could have like picked that up from his inner monologue. But he seems like the only one that's working. Like he seems like he's the only one that cares about getting his job done and doing it at a high level. And even though he can be like kind of like slightly socially awkward, he like communicates well with the customer. He's trying to get stuff done. He's trying to deliver a good product because he works for a newspaper company, which kind of leads me to my next point. There is some like, I told y'all this book is full of so many different styles. Well, now we got a new one. There's a point in this where it's like written like newspaper clippings where there's a newspaper title and it's this punchy, over dramatic piece, and it just kind of jumps to the next one, which did kind of break up the text, and it did speed by because it was just like these quick chunks, hit it and quit it, and it was on to the next thing. I did find myself liking Mr. Bloom's internal monologue, like that stream of consciousness, a little bit more than that. But I was glad to see, again, James Joyce playing around with the styles and the stuff like that. So that was interesting to see, and it did add something to it, especially because that's where he works. I also told y'all that this book starts off with Stephen and we're in his head. Well, Stephen and Mr. Bloom are both very very intellectual. They are both very smart. Like, but they two different personalities. The what Mr. Bloom thinks as he's going through his day, you know, handling his business is like, wow, you really they always like they have these great internal dialogues, and then they even have like very highly intellectual conversations with other people. Steven was gone for a while, but he back. Steven is back, and that's also interesting. So, okay, one thing that I liked about this, let me kind of back up. When people said that there was required or that there was suggested reading before you read this, I slightly wrote it off. I was like, I feel like this novel can stand alone. Like, I've already read some of the suggested reading. I think I'm good. But like I mentioned earlier, some of that reading was the Bible. It was Hamlet. in the Odyssey, some of his earlier works like the portraits and the young artist and something else. I was like, I think I'm good. I feel like I can kind of like, is reading this book over a year. If I'm missing context, I will go look it up. What I didn't expect is that they would be right. I mean, I just feel like if I was just as familiar with the Odyssey or his earlier works as I was Shakespeare or the Bible, I feel like this would be like much more of an enriched experience. Like, I do think this stands alone. It does, but there's so many parallels that I don't get while reading because I just don't have that context. So I do think there's some merit to actually, brushing up on your Odyssey knowledge because, again, this follows that same structure. Like, the episodes coincide with the incidents in the Odyssey. And this is basically Joyce's attempt to prove that the life of an ordinary person can be just as epic as a 10-year journey in the Odyssey. This happens over the course of 18 hours, but you know what I mean. And so it's so many things that I don't realize until I'm talking to like the group about it when we're discussing what we're talking about, or I'm looking things up like where is this from? Where did this come from? And then see that it kind of coincides. So if I could go back, I would. Me personally, I do think this stands alone, but I would read the Odyssey first if I could go turn back the hands of time. I'm not doing it now because I'm a fourth of the way through. I'm actually, I don't know, I look like more than a fourth, but I'm not turning back now because I'm 245 pages in. I'm not going back. But if I could, I would go back and kind of brush up on that. Yeah, and another thing, I wasn't not enjoying it before, but I feel like I just got to a point where I'm invested. I just got to a point where I'm like really interested in what's going on in Bloom's life and Steven's life in the everyday thing. In these episodes, we got introduced to so many different characters. They were coming in and out. And I just found myself like enjoying the flow of the book. The way that these episodes are written, I actually wrote it down. It's a name for this type of writing that I didn't know. Peristaltic prose is what's used often. So before I had that word, I was just saying like this is exactly what I wrote. Some of the sentences are so short and so brilliant, and some of the sentences are so complex and confusing, made up of words and phrases, but still demand their respect and appreciation. The author combines a lot of words that I would have usually thought would be separate words, but makes them one. However, it flows very well into a sentence. Some of the sentences as well are very short. 1, 2, 3 words in a sentence, and then the next sentence will be super long. And the way that this prose can be described is like it kind of moves and flows like a wave. So it's super short sentences, and then you got these overly like descriptive sentences that can go on, and then it's this super short sentences that probably could have been like something added to it. It was just like hit out. And that was kind of interesting because, again, you kind of go back and forth. And it's not always like directly afterwards. Sometimes it's a super long sentence that was just so like overly descriptive, so like visceral. And then you have maybe 2 or 3 sentences afterwards that's like 2 words, 3 words. Something that I wouldn't even think would be, it is a full sentence, but some of them ain't. Some of them is just like, look, it's my style and I'm going with it. So I appreciated that. It was something else I wanted to mention too. Oh, a lot of this episode, one of the episodes, is devoted to Stephen and others debating how much Shakespeare's lived experience matters relative to his work. So thinking like formalism versus biographical criticism. And this kind of goes with conversations that are happening right now, current day. Can you separate the art from the artist? is everything written from like a biographical lens? They were talking about Shakespeare, but we could talk about that with anybody. Or can it be totally separated? And I've heard this conversation specifically with Shakespeare years ago. Years ago. I told y'all, I know I keep saying this. I'm going to stop saying it because I feel like it's low key annoying. But I did used to be a part of a classical poetry group in college. And there was always a debate about something. This came up so often, but I think the general consensus is with somebody that old, like that far in the past, a lot of what people think they know is inferred, it's secondhand. There wasn't great record keeping at that time. So with somebody like him, I think the literary criticism would be different than people nowadays, where authors are so much more visible and so much of their lives can be shown. So I don't know, that was interesting. And then not only, like they said, you should probably read Hamlet before this, but Stephen and Mr. Bloom also knows a lot about this. They were talking about like so many of Shakespeare's plays. I mean, they talked about Taming of the Shrew, which is my favorite. They talked about King Lear, Richard. They talked about Juliet, Romeo and Juliet. Did they mention Macbeth? Maybe not. Yeah, so many of them. And Stephen had an interesting theory on Hamlet. And so I thought that was cool because I've never heard that ever. And I don't even think, like, with the character Stephen is, I couldn't tell if he was being satirical or literal. But it was interesting hearing, like, their thoughts on Shakespeare. Another thing, I'm trying to see, because I did take quite a bit of notes. Oh, yes. In these episodes, there's a heavy, heavy point being made on, like, overconsumption, overindulgence, pure greed, like mass production, like so much. And then to a point where when he was describing like this food scene, it was so gross and disgusting. It was just like gross. And then he just made so many different parallels to what's going on. Like Mr. Bloom, he be having stuff going on in his mind. And it's just interesting, you know? He's an average man, but he's not average. Like, this is supposed to be an ordinary man, but he seems like incredible and not just ordinary. So maybe another thing is not only can an ordinary person's life be an epic, maybe ordinary people are extraordinary. I don't know. Like, maybe that's what he's going with that. But I was locked in with these. This group of episodes probably has been my favorite so far. Just because I feel like I was working my way up a hill. I was interested and invested, but I wasn't like connecting with it on a deeper level. I was enjoying it. I was like taking notes and observations about the way that it was constructed. I was noticing things that he was doing, appreciating it. But I just feel like I hit a point where I'm truly enjoying it. I'm just getting to the point where not only am I an appreciator, but I want to keep reading and I want to see like where he goes next. I want to meet Mr. Bloom's wife, Molly, because this man is low-key obsessed with her. And something's telling me she don't feel the same. Like, so I want to see, I do believe we get to meet her later on, and I'm interested to see what she thinks and feels. Yeah, I'm interested to see what the climax of this book will be. And that's where I'm at. Let me make sure I don't got nothing else before I end this video. Let's see. I'm getting used to the chaos of this book. Yeah, that is true. Descriptive writing, peristolic prose, which is language that starts and stops almost flowing like a wave. I said that. Yeah, Bloom's inner monologue is so interesting. He uses identity, shame, anxiety, literature, over analyzing politics, greed, etc. to send a message. Stephen and Bloom are both very intelligent. Yeah. I think that's it, y'all. I am glad that not only am I at a spot where I do appreciate it, I'm legitly enjoying it. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I really want to make sure I ain't missed nothing. I want to share one thing I wrote. At this point, I see why people don't finish this book and why people love to finish this book. It's confusing at times, hard to follow, but also beautifully written and rewarding to finish. Shakespearean knowledge, biblical knowledge, Paradise Lost knowledge were all helpful in understanding this. I wish I had a stronger knowledge of the Odyssey, though. This prompted me to want to reread the Odyssey and Joyce's earlier works. Yeah, agreed. I get why people don't want to read this because I mean, why they stop, why they might want to, because you hear all this stuff like his reputation precedes it. So I get why people might want to, but I also get why when they start reading it, they stop. It's a lot going on in this book where it's not nothing going on. It's a lot going on with the way that it's written. It's a lot going on with how he puts this story together, but the actual story itself is just like this man just doing everyday stuff. He going to the post office, he going to work, he eating, he meeting people, he's talking to people, he's thinking, he's walking from this street to that street. He's not doing much, but the way that the book is constructed, it is a lot. So I do get why people is like, you know what, that's too much. I'm gonna park it right here. But I also get why people want to keep reading it and get to the end and just see what it is. Because I'm telling you, like, I'm just at a point where the appreciation has merged into interest and excitement. And I can't wait to see what the next episode has. So that's it, y'all. That's it. Let me know if you've read this, if you want to read it, what you think about it. Does it sound interesting to you? Yeah. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one.